Hi, welcome to the 1 Liter Podcast. You will watch us drinking 1 liters of beer whilst talking about shies. Please like and subscribe. Welcome to the 1 Liter.
Ja, Prost! Let's make quicker the introduction. So Phil and I have not done a podcast in many weeks. Phil has just moved into a new place with his partner Am. It's absolutely gorgeous. We're in a new studio. It may look a bit different to those who actually watch the video on the Spotify. If you have any questions, we obviously have a questionnaire down the bottom of our Spotify. Send it over.
Wunderbar.
Phil, I wanted to ask you, bro. So Phil and I are attending a boat party around mid-March.
Trying to get shredded.
On the harbour in Sydney. And I wanted to ask you, what would you do if you saw, let's say you really hated someone. Like nobody, I know you wouldn't wish death upon anyone, but imagine if you saw someone you really hated and they fucked you off that day and they were like way away from everyone else's boats and then you saw a fin coming towards them. What would you do? Would you sing out? Or would that morbid curiosity be like, I'm going to watch this shit happen?
Yeah, I wonder. Someone else will sing out, right? It's isn't that called like the observer effect?
I didn't even realize there was an effect called that.
Yeah,
I just
so
thought
like
it was been inactivity.
The observer effect is like if a bunch of people are seeing something happen and everyone's just like, oh, someone else will do something about it. They call that like the observer effect. Oh, like surely someone else has already called the ambulance and then nobody does.
That's sad.
Isn't it?
I see videos on Instagram of like people, public indecency, or like someone will be on a train and they'll like do something horrible to someone and people just watch. And I'm thinking, and in the comments, I see it as well. People are like, there's not a single man in there who stood up and helped this person.
Yeah,
It's
because
like, fucking
everyone's
oath.
like, is someone going to do something about this? Or-
Fuck that, dude.
Yeah, you would.
I
think I would.
I
Like,
know you would, dude.
Yeah,
I know you would.
absolutely I would.
Yeah.
And like,
But I know you, but we've heard it here, folks. Phil would let that person die with a shark.
not necessarily.
Shouldn't have
Come
made
on.
fun of my pants, asshole.
Yeah, I don't know because there's barely anyone that I really dislike that much. I'd still save them. You know, you'd be that guy that's like saved him, and then you're like, fuck, I thought you hated me, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm a good dude, so shut the fuck up and get out of my life.
Yeah.
Live it somewhere else.
Karma points.
Bling bling.
You went and saw Huberman in Brisbane.
Huberman, yeah.
Huberman, sorry, Huber. That's his Jewish
Andrew
cousin.
Huberman.
He's like, all right, we're going to talk about the tunnels in New York. So you saw Huberman and you had a question for him, which was like, what do you think of the carnivore diet? And it was more or less answered for you guys because there was like a huge questionnaire. It was about 500 questions, as if your question was going to get pulled out unless it was a good one. But if you had Huberman in this room right now, what do you think you'd ask him?
Oh, shit. I would ask him stuff about the diet specific stuff just because of currently what I'm trying out, see his perspective. He did kind of answer it because someone asked, what are the foods you try to eat every day? So then he kind of broke down the different types of diets that are going crazy and the fads and stuff. And he basically just said, I don't really like advocate any sort of extreme too much. He just says like he did say I eat a lot of meat and then fruit and vegetables.
Does he fast?
I think he did mention that. I think
Some people treat that as an extreme these days.
But I'm talking like just the like skipping breakfast kind of fast. I think that's his vibe as well.
Yeah, but
And a lot of
people who
people
just
do
have
that.
like liquid diets for like 2 months.
Yeah, like
It's like, come on,
the
dog.
detox shit.
You're dying.
You're losing weight because you don't have any nutrition.
Yeah. When there's a strong breeze that comes through, you're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be in fucking New Zealand.
No, he just doesn't do anything to an extreme. And he's friends with like old mate Saladino, that is carnivore guy.
Every time someone says his name, it's like
Saladino. The guy that has salad in his name and eats meat. Yeah, so he's mates with him. So he knows all the people that do the extreme stuff. But the interesting thing, and we just spoke about this earlier today, is that he did say he tries to eat a lot of whole foods, which is also a thing that's just been thrown around. Oh, whole food diet, blah, blah, blah.
Whole foods is, who would deny the benefit of whole foods?
Well, people don't realize, like the thing that I told you earlier, where is when you eat foods in the closest to their original state, so like a whole vegetable or
right
like
out of the garden.
meat,
Yeah.
something that's not been processed, not been ground to the shit and added shit and been processed into something else. When you eat that, you're actually training your gut. I can't remember how he said this, but I'm paraphrasing. But
This is really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone listening, listen up.
Listen up. So when
Because
you eat,
your stomach is extremely intelligent.
it's like your second brain. So when you eat whole foods, you're basically training your gut that when it gets that food, it associates that taste with the nutrition in that food. That's
Give us an
the
example
very
of-
rough thing.
Give us
So
an
like,
example of a food, and then
like, for
a
instance,
potato or something.
well, for instance, meat, you'd
Mm.
be getting a ton of protein and a ton of like it has a lot of nutrients in
Fats,
that
salts.
that
yep.
other things don't have. So like salts, fats, and like I'm talking not just macronutrients but micronutrients as well. So like vitamins and things.
Yep.
So then if your body is lacking something and you only get your micronutrients and macronutrients from whole foods, your body is then going to crave the actual food that it needs. So like if you're short on salt, you'll just be like, oh, I feel like something salty. And it'll be because your body needs it. Whereas when you're eating a lot of processed shit, and the example, he didn't give this example, so I don't even know how scientifically accurate this is. But in my head, I was like, well, makes sense. If you're drinking a chocolate protein shake, bunch of sweet chocolate flavor, and then your body's getting a bunch of protein, it's like, oh, protein, sweet, great. Let's associate those. Then suddenly your body's like, I need some protein. And it's like sugar craving. And you just go and eat a piece of chocolate and then you're fucking yourself up.
That's crazy. So we know, so you've got salty foods, right?
Mm.
And then you've got salty and sweet. But I wonder if there's another, because I'll tell you one thing. I think there is a third one for me, because there might be other things, but there's a third one for me. I remember, I haven't done it in a long while because I do eat well. But I remember for a time there, especially when I was younger and I was kind of like living on my own and having to cook for myself. And so for the first couple of days, you're like, or even if you go on a bender for a couple of weekends, or you spend a couple of weeks just like eating takeaway and drinking every weekend. One morning, you just wake up and you go, I just need something organic. I need vegetables. And you crave some real food, something not processed. And when you eat maybe like a ton of veggies and then a little bit of protein, it really does satisfy you.
Yeah.
Have a great sleep that night. You feel good. So yeah, some afternoons I feel like something salty, and that's a tricky one because either you can have proper protein or put a bunch of salt on veggies and eat that, or you can be lazy and just get a packet of Lay's chips, and it satisfies the same thing.
Yeah. And then you're not giving your body those nutrients at all. But I've kind of experienced it firsthand with the carnivore thing because I was getting no cravings. Like I was satiated from fatty meats. And I wasn't like, oh my God, I really feel like a potato or I really feel like something else. It was just like, oh yeah, I'm fucking ready to eat steak and mince again. It's great.
Mm.
And I was feeling satiated. So that's kind of a firsthand experience. And lately, like the last few weeks, just been going off rails a bit with it. So like having nachos out and having this out, and I can freaking feel it, man. Like I'll have like a
bloating, tired,
carby day, and the next day I'll feel it in my guts.
Wow.
I'm like, oh man, like what's going on? Like my gut's like, oh God, let's just process and get rid of it.
Wow.
So it like feels a lot heavier, and yeah, I feel more bloaty and like I'm retaining water, which isn't always a bad thing if you're trying to get juiced and have a mad pump, but
yeah,
maybe I'll just carnivore it up again, get real shredded, and then like the day before the boat party, just eat a bunch of bread.
Yeah.
No. And then just get a mad pump. That'll be sick.
Are you going to get a pump before the boat party?
I don't know, probably.
Right.
Like
I feel you got a solid physique, so I feel like pump or no pump, you'd still look good. But guys like me, whose bodies are developing well, but it's not cut from Olympus yet,
It's not 3 weeks out from comp.
Yeah, so I got to
3-week comp
I
prep.
got to inflate what I do have, like my ego.
Well, I feel like the best pump that I normally get for things is just like doing a bunch of push-ups. Just do a bunch of push-ups, maybe some chin-ups, and then I feel like just get the chest bigger and you're good.
Yeah.
That's all the pump I probably want and need.
Yeah.
That'll be fine.
I feel so accomplished when I finish a leg day every time because I always lift harder, I lift longer, and I know that the hardest part of my week is over.
Yeah.
Physically, right? But when I work either back and buys or I think chest is the funnest thing because because obviously you can't see your own back. You can see your lats and stuff, but like when you do chest and triceps, because the triceps makes the arm look big, not the bicep.
Big.
And when you do chest and you stand in front of the mirror, it's the most easily rewarding. What's it?
That's why every
endorphin
dude
kinda-
loves chest, right? That's
Yeah.
the bro science. Like it's just because you're like, oh, I look huge.
Yeah.
And like, yes, everyone flexes the bicep, but I feel like if I do a bicep workout and the bicep's really pumped, I have really long biceps, so it just looks like a pumped up lump. Like it doesn't have like a peak or anything. So I'm like, oh, it just looks thicker.
Tennis ball.
Whereas if you do triceps, you're like, oh my God, it's the size of my head.
Yeah.
Yeah. When
Well-
really it's not.
This is an interesting one. Let's say you were alive or dead. You can have dinner. Let's say cigars and whiskey
Mm.
with 4 famous people.
At the same time or?
Alive or dead, yeah. Who would you invite?
Cigars and whiskey.
It sucks because obviously, like, you would like to see relatives and things who have passed away, but we're only going celebs.
We're talking celebs. I get the question. I'm definitely Arnie. 100% having a cigar with Arnie.
Would you
having
have
a stogie?
Would you have a stogie with Arnie now or when he was in his 70s? When he was ripped? Or do you think he'd be a bit of a cunt?
Oh, he would have been a tool, man.
He would have made fun of you, for
oh,
sure.
I doubt it. He would have made.
Well, you would have been like, look what
Nah.
I got. And he would have been like, haha, I was like that at 12.
Yeah, but I don't think he would have been a cunt in that way. I think he would have been a cunt if you're trying to compete with him. Like if you're on a similar level, then he would tear you down and make sure that your headspace is fucked up and you're not going to win.
He's like the Conor McGregor of fucking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas anyone that's like, hey, I'm trying to be fit, he'd probably be the most encouraging dude. He'd be like, yeah, you need to come to the gym more.
Do you think you could banter with him though?
Probably. I feel like he's a pretty banter kind of
Yeah.
lively guy. Like he was very charismatic
Mm.
from what people describe. But I think the older Arnie I would have done. Maybe not like today, but the post Hollywood Arnie. Maybe even the politics Arnie.
Maybe kindergarten cop Arnie when he was when he was just getting into acting and he was probably like, this is a new world, you know?
When he was still yoked.
My stogies, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so 3 more.
Okay, Arnie, then shit, I'm just trying to think of like whose wisdom I would want. I would love to sit down with Wim Hof. I don't know if he'd have a cigar, but he'd definitely have a beer with you.
Oh,
He'd probably have
Wim would be a good one, dude.
He would have a beer and a joint.
Yeah.
Wim is a fan of weed. Well, he's not a fan, but he's like, yeah, weed's great.
And it's not difficult to process that just looking at him and hearing him.
Yeah.
And that's not saying he's some useless stoner, but you can tell he's just like, that guy doesn't need stress in his life.
Well, he gets into different states of mind with other things, but he has said in interviews like, yeah, weed's fine, but like he prefers to do his breathing to get into these high states kind of thing.
I reckon someone like Arnie, who is obviously a big advocate and someone who's probably a lot in his life has experimented with ways of creating a better ecosystem for the body.
Mm.
You know, eating right, nutrition,
Well, you
working
know what's
out. sort of
interesting?
thing. I think Wim Hof and Arnie would have had a good chat.
That would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool to have both of them at the
Dude,
same time.
you've already set
Holy
up
shit.
2 people having a great chat. You're
Yeah,
just
you're
sitting
like,
back watching.
whoa.
Yeah,
You just be like,
whoa.
hit record.
Yeah, yeah.
Shit. So that would be sick. But you know what's interesting about Arnie and nutrition? Back in those days, they weren't measuring shit. Like he was like, when he was prepping for the competitions, he's literally said, he's like, we would just eat the same thing, just less,
Mhm.
slightly less.
Mm.
So there was no like, I'm cutting all carbs and I'm eating just this and I'm going to get this much protein and this much that. He just was like, got to eat a ton of meat and protein and just eat more.
The thing
That's why they were all like smoother and rounder and no one was like veins on their stomachs and shit.
And that's why the bodybuilders these days are dropping like flies, because they're taking 10 times more than Arnie's crew were. Like Arnie's crew were taking lots, but they're not as much. But the thing is,
You're
like,
talking about the drugs now?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
steroids. But what I'm saying is, like, in regards to being physical, Arnie would go there, work out in the morning, and then work out at night. And he would do crazy drop set. And he like 10 sets of fucking 15 or 12. New guys today, like you watch Sam Sulek, he's a fucking legend. If you watch Sam, he'll go in there and he'll do 2 sets of maybe to failure on squats or a back machine or something. He'll probably do 3 or 4 exercises, maybe even 3 exercises, and then leave.
Yeah.
And then that's the other, because like, but he goes every day.
That's not entirely new. It's just because there's a lot more info out there now. But
yeah,
during Arnie's era, there was
just endurance. Arnie's era, just pure endurance.
Well, it wasn't everyone though. So that was Arnie's style, and that's the style that got so popular because he was so famous. But there was, and I'm gonna fucking forget his name now.
Mike.
Yes, Mike Mensa. He was about doing 1 set of an exercise. Like he would do warm-up sets and then 1 peak set where you go like it's either do this set or die. So you were just killing yourself to do this 1 set and then that's it for that muscle. So you would do a couple of warm-up sets of bench, probably pretty heavy, but not like your max. And then you would just do 1 set where you could barely get 8 or 10, but you are going to do them no matter what. Like you will just be there. If it takes you 30 seconds to do the last rep, you're still going to do it. You're not getting anyone to lift it. You just, just lick that. Tasty microphone.
Yeah, that should be like, like radio stations. Welcome to Triple J. It's like welcome to the 1 Liter podcast.
Or when they do segment changes, which
yeah.
Yeah. And so the other day I was
it sounds like Seinfeld. All right. Yeah.
So that's
fascinating.
2 people for you.
Yeah. All right.
Who are you adding to the mix?
You got 2 more.
I need to do 4. Are
so
you going to do 4?
It's 5 people. I'll do 4 if you want, but I just need 2 more people.
2 more people.
So you've already got a great convo started with Wim Hof, who's humble, and then Arnie, who doesn't feel like he needs to compete with Wim or you. So he's just loving getting advice from Wim on how to breathe and be more a touch. And then obviously they're both European.
Yeah.
So they can talk about, when I was Austrian boy, I'd go into the snow and chop trees,
Third is it my third? Yeah. Third is Jim Carrey.
Oh.
I'm sitting with that motherfucker. Now Jim Carrey. Like
no
acid trips, mushrooms, Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey now seems like I love Jim. I would take a bullet for Jim. He's one of the reasons I'm an actor.
Mm-hmm.
But
no, I'm doing now.
I don't think Jim Carrey is a wacko. I don't. I just think he's using parts of his, like he doesn't feel like he needs to hold back a little bit. He's gone full guns blazing. It's kind of like cringe.
Full weird. Yeah. But that's why I'd want to sit with him one-on-one, have a chat.
Oh.
Because he'd be full weird and I'd be like, what's going on in your brain, bro?
Could you have him weird out the other 2 though?
Do they have to be together or get to?
Bro, you're at a table drinking scotch.
Oh, shit.
So yeah, no.
I'm having him.
You're going to have him?
Yep.
He might add something to the mix.
Having him there.
For all you know, he's probably a good friend with Arnie.
Maybe like 10, 15 year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like
maybe
not like prime
Fun
peak.
with Dick and Jane.
Yeah, like starting to get commercial Jim Carrey. Like
yeah.
Starting to do some movies they're like,
yeah,
pretty boring, but
he's losing it. Yeah. That's a funny thing about Jim Carrey and Adam Sandler. No matter what they do, people can criticize them, but you can't take away, like, there's always a piece of them that everyone loves and holds on to. Because, like, the shit they did in the past. All right, who's number 4?
Number 4 is... Number 4 is at a table, cigar. Let's add. Oh, I should add a female. Really, all I'm thinking of is dudes. I'm like because I'm. The only reason is because I'm thinking like my inspiration, but
My
my
Sharona.
inspiration. I was thinking like DiCaprio or Jamie Foxx. I'd love to hang and have a conversation with Jamie Foxx. He's
The Fox man, yeah.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah.
Jamie
I like
Foxx.
Jamie Foxx.
And
He does amazing impersonations. He was supposed to make a film where he plays Mike Tyson. He does a really good Mike Tyson impression on
supposed
YouTube.
to. Is it not happening?
Dude, it's been like 5 or 6 years.
I thought they were already like filmed it and he was all yoked for it.
We would have known about it by now. All right, so that's interesting. And it is Scotch and whiskey, or no, you choose. What is your choice of drink?
Yeah, it's a cigar and whiskey night.
Cigar and whiskey.
But you don't have to have a cigar if you don't want. But
yeah,
Schwarzenschwinkel and I are having a cigar.
Yeah. Yeah, true. There you go.
Yeah, that would be dope. But I didn't really, as soon as I went down the actor realm, I didn't really think of anything else. So, But yeah, I'll stick to that. What are yours?
Well, despite his background and despite a lot of the allegations around him, I absolutely love, and this may get me in trouble, but everyone's entitled to, like, for instance, Michael Jackson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jackson did atrocities, ruined some children's life.
Still, I would totally respect if you said Michael Jackson on the table. I'd be like, fucking oath.
People still love Michael Jackson. And I grew up watching this gentleman. I love his directing. And I've seen some of his interviews. And I just think he's very genuine. And it's all subjective. People may feel the different thing, but Mel Gibson.
Oh, yeah.
I love Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
So.
No, I feel that.
Mel Gibson would be the first
one. He's a very
one.
interesting dude, yeah.
I want to choose actors. I want to choose all these people, but I feel like.
Can you do the Mel Gibson voice again?
5 days ago, I saw a rig that can haul that tanker. You want to get out of here? Talk to me. No, what?
No. The Mel Gibson voice where you just. It's just that rumble.
I can't do it.
The what women want.
Buddy, fucking.
Remember the what women want? He's like.
I don't remember that. I know we watched it. Dude, he fucking went for it. So I would just pick Mel's brain about directing and his approach to acting and how he gets into scenes. He is his facial expressions and everything he does is amazing. Like I watched The Patriot maybe 2 months ago and I love The Patriot. Great film. And Mad Max, come on. I didn't really think about. I should have thought about it while you were talking, but I was engaged.
Are there any overlaps? Would you take any of my?
Arnie would be cool, but he's not on my top list. I'd say I'm not trying to be cocky or anything, but I'm trying to think about people who are dead.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Here's the thing: Chris Farley, who has passed away, is my favorite actor of all time. But if I knew that I could bring him back, but it had to be amongst the group, it would be Chris Farley. But if I had an opportunity to resurrect Chris Farley for a day, so I could hang out with him privately, so I could just talk to him, and
that'd be preferred.
Preferred, yeah. So I'm not going to say Chris. I think I want to say like Julius Caesar or Napoleon Bonaparte or something, but they would just be like, where am I? What is this?
Yeah, it'd be so weird.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, like, if you think about 100 years ago and we're like, oh yeah, they were the same people. They would have had such a different perspective, like perception of the world than what we do now.
Yeah.
Just because of how we live. Like that we can access any piece of information we want just by typing it into a piece of glass that we're holding in our hand, and it just connects to an invisible network that just gives us the information. Like we just know so much about the world, and we can just be like, what does that building look like in that other country? There it is.
Yeah.
Like they had no fucking access to that. It was just like, oh, this tree is pretty.
Yeah.
Like so different. The world would have seemed so different.
One cool thing about the movie Gladiator is when Russell Crowe's friend, the Namibian, the black dude, when they arrive in Rome for the gladiator games, he looks at the Colosseum and he's like, I did not know men could create things like this.
Yeah.
And that was the Colosseum, which is huge, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, I would be starstruck by that. But imagine if these fuckers saw the Burj Khalifa.
Burj Khalifa. Or,
shit.
imagine if these fuckers just stood in front of like the Harbour Bridge.
Oh, fuck.
Like, what the fuck is this metal thing just floating?
Yeah. Yeah. I would like. So don't ask. No, I don't want to answer these dudes because I'm very introspective and it would take me some time. So maybe next podcast.
Nah. Come on, just throw some out.
All right, Mel Gibson.
Pump them out. Sam Sulek.
Yeah, you know what? I'd bring Sam Sulek. I'd love to have
a chat with him.
Sam would be a cool dude to
and
chat
I'm
with.
not even a big fan. I'm just like, guy just talks shit to the camera. But
that's a good one. All right, Mel Gibson, Sam Sulek, Shane Gillis. Shane Gillis.
Only very recent fan from the Netflix special. Seen him a lot on with Theo Von. And I'm like, oh yeah, this guy, pretty funny.
You want to tax me, motherfucker?
Yeah.
George Washington? Yeah.
This guy, but like just from Theo Von, I was like, yeah, this guy's pretty funny, whatever.
Yeah.
Then I watched his special, like while I was setting shit up in the new place. I was setting I can't remember what I was doing. I think I was tidying like that whole TV cabinet, putting shit away. And I just had it on the background. I was like, this motherfucker is hilarious.
Yeah, dude, he's great.
He's so funny.
When I watched his special for the first time, I thought he's a bit nervous and he took a lot of pauses and stuff, but it works for him. I think the next special he does, which I can't wait for, hopefully it's soon, he's going to be a lot more comfortable. You know, and I'm getting snippets of him on SNL at the moment, so I can't wait to watch the whole episode somehow.
Oh, yeah.
The last person I would choose dude, Sam Sulek is a great one. That's a great one, dude. Because I'd want to hang out with that dude and listen to him talk. I reckon he'd be a cool dude. Theo
Von. I'd pick Theo Von.
I think Theo would be great. Would having two comedians
I'm not even just talking for his comedy, but he has developed himself into quite a good conversational person on his podcast where he's really open about shit. Like he's really open about just getting deep with shit. Like he had that UFC fighter like in tears, like the guy broke down.
Strickland, yeah.
Yeah, and
he's like, I'm sorry, man.
And he was so good about it. He's like, I'll just sit here. And I was like,
Bro,
holy shit, dude. He's a very clever kid now.
Theo Von.
He's a very clever man.
The dude's like 42 or something.
Exactly.
Theo Von, maybe like 3 years ago, he used to do because he's got this past week his podcast, and he did segments where he would just have callers come in and he'd read mail, or like a dude would send a voice message and he'd listen to it and go, hey, thanks for the voice message, man. So I think maybe you're going through this. And I'll show you it on YouTube after this. This dude tells him, he's like, hey, man, I just wanted to let you know that I've been struggling with sobriety and drinking problems and stuff. And
that's like his domain, right?
Yeah. Drugs and alcohol is his issue. Yeah. Cocaine especially. And he said, the guy on the voice recording said, I really appreciate you. And I just want to let you know that when I reached a year or some kind of time limit for his, like, you get a token for like Alcohol's Anonymous, his missus did something for him. She like gave him the token or gave him something.
Did something special, yeah.
And he said, that's like one of the nicest things anyone's ever done for me.
Wow.
Just like that person noticed me. They noticed what I was going through. They saw that I'm improving and they rewarded me for it. Not just rewarded, but appreciated.
Thoughtfully rewarded, yeah.
Yeah, and then Theo cries a lot as well. He's
man. So open.
I'd have Jordan Peterson as number 4.
Oh, yes.
Jordan Peterson.
Fuck, how did I forget that?
That'd be sick. So Theo's like, yeah, man, I appreciate you, man. He's like, it's nice to know when someone just says like I see you. And then he's like, tears are rolling. He's like, yeah, man, it's just like, and he's like, he does these ones a lot. He's like, I see you, and like covers his, but it's just like I admit, when I see Jordan Peterson give speeches and he cries, I get emotional too.
Mm.
And then when I see Theo do it,
you get so much shit for like, oh, stop being a bitch. I'm like, are you fucking kidding? Like he's just being brutally open.
He's just being such because like, here's the thing, right? Like we've all got, probably me more than you, because you know, I'm not saying I had a bad upbringing, but I feel like because you have a different, you come from Europe. Your parents come from Europe and they live in Australia, so it's a very much like there's a positivity there. We're in Australia now. It's beautiful. Oh, look at all these things. That person's mean to me. That person drives differently, but you know what? It's fine because I'm in a beautiful country. We're not in Germany anymore. And so I'm assuming among other things, there was a lot of positivity in your household. My parents came from Parramatta out west. My mother came from a tough nurse mother and a World War II veteran father. And my dad came from just cunty parents, a pisshead father and a fucking loud, annoying wife. So like both my parents came from very blue collar rough. And then when my dad met my mother, she had 2 sons already, divorced a guy. So then when my dad got together, he had 2 more sons. So my dad had to take on 4 boys. And then he said, fuck Sydney. We're not letting our kids grow up in Parramatta or out west somewhere, Blacktown, whatever. Let's move into Brisbane.
I've heard it used to be quite rough, Sydney. Like several people have told me now, like back in the day. And like one of the worst things people pointed out was just the racism, apparently, was just real bad.
Oh, yeah.
Real bad. Like if you had an accent, damn.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to get at is that I despite all the hardships I've gone through with my family and just growing up in places and stuff like that, obviously nowhere near as had Boston as maybe someone in Africa or a third world country, right? But like we're all entitled to our own levels of agony,
our own struggles.
Yeah. But one thing that I've always kept within myself, and I hope anyone listening to this who's a long-time listener isn't like, he's bullshitting, because I've been quite aggressive on here in the past, but I do care about humanity, and I feel like if you put a bunch of humans together and just filled us with drugs and just stripped us of our inhibitions, stripped us of our egos and stuff, we just cry with joy and hug each other. And at the best of times, I see that in other humans. I admit in the past I've been quick to judge and I've been quick to anger, but when you have empathy for other humans and you realize, well, that dude was a cunt to me. He cut me off on the highway, or that woman gave me the finger because I winked at her when I walked past her and like, g'day, how are you? She gave me the finger because she's probably from a foreign country. It's not that these people hate me. It's not that they're bad people. They're just, maybe something happened to them beforehand. So you got to consider these things. And those people who like their family members are killed by someone, and then when they're at the courthouse and they say to them, I forgive you, you're going to go to prison for the rest of your life. Like, oh my God,
we can't even understand that.
Those people are strong.
And
someone killed one of my family members, I'd burn them alive. But,
that's it.
But
and this is the thing. We can't even imagine that because we haven't had anywhere near the struggles that some people have had throughout history and throughout the world right now.
Yeah.
Like there's shit where when you are in real strife or real struggle, like so, let's say World War II kind of struggles, there's just a part of humanity that comes out that is just so good and positive and giving that we don't really have to show, right, in our cushy first world life. So we have struggles as well, obviously. Everyone has struggles. Suicide rates are crazy right now, but it's because there's no extreme contrast that everyone's going through. So if you're going through something that's a real struggle for you, it's like the end of the world. Whereas if your entire country is being bombed, that is such a extreme stress state that everyone's sharing, that in contrast, if you move to a country where that's not happening, you would just be like, holy shit, everything is phenomenal.
It's like a perfect example is like, yeah, maybe war-stricken country, and this person's lost everything and the economy's gone to shit, and they're like sitting there like, fuck, and some stragglers who their house just got bombed are walking past and they're covered in blood and dust and they're in shock. That person would let them into their home.
Yeah.
And then feed them with what they had. But over here, It's like, oh, the government take care of you, fine.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't need to give you what I have.
I've paid my
There's
taxes.
no collective. But the reason why I'm going through all this just to bring it back is that just perfect. You just summed it up perfectly, dude. We're not going through a level of strife that requires us to be on the basest, rawest level of empathy
Helping
and human.
each other.
Yeah. But when I see Jordan Peterson cry and his heart, his pure heart bleeds for people, like he's not saying, he's not crying for people who are in war-torn countries, but he's crying for the future of just regular men and women, but obviously he appeals to men a lot. Regular men who don't feel like they can be themselves because of stigmas and prejudice about toxic masculinity or something. When I see him cry about people giving up and wanting to commit suicide, or people not seeing, finding faith, or not finding a purpose to go on, and he cries for these people and he says, there's better things in life. That instantly sucks me down to that level of pure empathy for my fellow human, my fellow man and woman, you know? So every time I watch a Jordan Peterson video and he cries, I long for it. Because isn't it weird? Even though we ignore these feelings all the time, not ignore them, but we kind of brush them off, it's so liberating to feel sadness and empathy for everything. Like women cry, men don't. And I'm not saying I long to cry, because I don't feel it's just my programming. Like I don't need to cry all the time. I'm like, oh, that happened. That's sad. I'm moving on with my life. But if I do see something sad, which is super rare, and I end up tearing up, fuck, it feels good.
You're feeling something. No, but I totally agree with the Peterson thing. He is obviously, just like what we just said, we're not in such strife where it's like an obvious, everyone's in trouble, we need to help each other. But he's on the level of the invisible struggle that people are going through. And he is trying to be the frontier of, I want to help those people and like,
so noble.
Yeah. And like uncover what's happening to them, their struggles. And at the same time, like just pointing out the ridiculousness of some of this woke shit that is almost, to me, it's almost crying out for that kind of attention on something that's pretty fabricated. I don't know, I'll probably get in trouble for that as well, but like with woke issues, there's a lot of crying and look at me and you need to conform to my beliefs, which is very different to someone that's actually struggling with things like not feeling like they can express emotions because it's being suppressed or they're not allowed to, and then people end up not wanting to go on. Like that shit's real.
Yeah. There's a lot of woke stuff.
Your upbringing, and even after you moved out, you've moved around a lot, hey? Yeah, we've had this conversation because you have moved a lot and I cannot stand moving. Like, I'm fucking exhausted. It's been like, how long's it been? 3 weeks since I've moved here?
I've downsized so much every time I move.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like, your move was so minimal. And I was like, part of me is like jealous and part of me is like, I could never do it. What about all my stuff? But it's probably liberating to just be like, I don't need this. I don't need all this stuff. Like, I have so much stuff. Like, all the shit moved. We went 2 apartments into one. And like, we already sold a bunch of shit. Like, we sold a sofa, we sold my bed. But it's just a lot of things to move. And then this is what I noticed. And I said this to Em when we moved. I was like, because I was doing a lot of fixing, right? I find something wrong. I'm like,
fix a lot.
Yeah, I'm like, this needs adjusting. And I went to Bunnings like 3 times in one day. And I'm like, I gotta go. It's like Bunnings is like walking distance. So I'm fixing a lot of shit. And when I fix shit, I said to him, I was like, I would rather like fix things for 3 days straight than spend 1 hour of cleaning stuff. Like, I fucking can't stand cleaning, and I had to re-clean my old apartment twice, and it was just fucking
I
death.
hate real estate.
Oh man,
This has been a great podcast, man. We've had a lot of fun.
it's wonderful.
Thank you guys so much for listening. We're back in action. I'll certainly be back every Friday because this place is wonderful. I'm happy to take 2 trains and 2 buses to get here. That's only if I don't feel like paying for an Uber.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So thank you guys so much for listening. Phil, do you have any last segment notes?
No, that's it. Let's call it a day.
Thanks, everyone.
Prost.
Prost.